time to give a bite size and then get stuck my eyes. That is until I was told by Thought Snap Neck. Okay, so from what you can tell, I just came back and from watching that film that people are kind of talking about it. It's the movie named Shelby Oaks. A little bit of a kind of like a background. I know who directed this movie. It's a guy named Chris Stuckman, who is a YouTuber that has kind of like big. He's a big name in there. He's known as being kind of like this calm, gentle movie critic. And well, my stances are pretty much neutral to the guy, but truth to be told, I kind of lost interest. Yeah, he has some interesting points. The guy is smart. I give it that. He knows his passion. He knows his passion. Although that was mostly what I noticed in the early. In his early videos. For example, still to this day, my favorite video is from him wasn't when he was reviewing 50 Shades of Grey, when he got so mad that he just tore apart the gift that he was given. And honestly, that reaction kind of made me laugh. But then lately, he kind of became how can I say that, controversial figure, mostly because when he decided to go deep into movie making, he let's say that he became more sympathetic about people making movies by saying that he knows how hard making movies is, and criticizing people who are involved into the art negatively is not fair. So he just stopped making negative reviews and all these things. And well, that didn't hold up with a lot of people, even myself, in the sense that, well, for some people they call him a sellout because he's just doing it because he just wants to look good for people making big budgeted movies and all this stuff. They to the point that they call him a sellout a little bit too much. But I don't go into that kind of like hate bandwagon that many people go. I'm neutral to the guy. If he wants to do his stuff, it's up to him. I don't how can I say, don't go too much into it. But I will say that personally, if he doesn't go kind of like in the negative bandwagon or criticizing movies in a negative way, well, personally, I found it kind of boring. It's almost like, how can I say that, people naturally they get attracted to for kind of like a train wreck or something like that, and it's kind of picking up the pieces of why that train wreck happened and all this stuff. Kind of feels interesting, but that's me kind of like pretentiously analyzing human emotion, humans when how they got into it. But I heard he made some short films. I haven't seen it, and in the case of Shelby Oaks, I only saw the trailer last month before my vacation, but I was like, So I decided to give it a try. I had some free time and I decided to watch it because, well, there is this common misconception that people say that, I don't know who said it, someone kind of mean-spiritedly said that movie critics are usually failed filmmakers. I don't believe that for the most part of the stuff. So I'm here to give kind of like my earnest thoughts on Chris Stuckman's big movie that I heard that it was that it got this budget thanks to Kickstarter and all this stuff. I'm not very knowledgeable. I'm just giving out my whole thing. Well, I kind of noticed, his love on filmmaking on the film. I'm sorry to say this, Chris, but your movie wasn't exactly very good. It wasn't. I found Shelby Oaks a very boring movie. it got so lost into its own atmospheric building and its own knowledge of filmmaking that it kind of got lost, let's say. The best way I can describe it is that it's like if you were uh, going to camping, and you get all the knowledge, you get the utensils, you get everything, you know the carpet and all the stuff. And once you go there, let's say that you use the tools, but you can't get into a straight path. And eventually you kind of get lost, even if you are very prepared for the stuff. If you have kind of like a knowledge of something, it doesn't guarantee that it's gonna succeed. This is something that even myself had, I learned from on my own, that even with all my knowledge art, film, and sometimes even common stuff, that's not guaranteed that the thing that I'm gonna do is kind of like I made a good job. Like for example, when I did the painting from it with my parents, I did a good job with all the knowledge that I could and made the extra effort. It took me like 3 months, but still I was criticized that some of the aspect of how a woman's look, my mother's look, I missed some details and other stuff. I still took it. Took it as an observation, and I can do it for better for worse. Okay, this is a bite size, so I'm gonna straight for the movie. So the movie synopsis, I will say that it's about this woman who she lost her sister many years ago. Her sister was a paranormal YouTube host from this show called Paranormal Paranoids. Kind of sound like what was it? The video game made by Kevin Flynn, Tron. But basically, that sister, she made the show. She went to a place called Shelby Oaks, which it was kind of like this. I don't know what it was. It sometimes centered that it had this big amusement park. Sometimes centered that it had this prison, and she and her crew disappear. That is until then. A few years later, they found one of the footage in which it shows her last moments, and also they found the other crew that they were killed horribly, but she's still missing. And then years later, her sister, which is our main character, I forgot the name of the actress, but let's say that she is obsessed. She goes into interviews. She's on documentaries because she's trying to find whereabouts of her sister. That is until some dude shows up at her door and blows his head off. But he's also carrying this. This videotape from this old camera, and when she sees it, she sees kind of like potential clues of where to find the sister, and that's technically the main thing. Is a paranormal investigation kind of film, which it sounds interesting, but like I said, it gets lost into its own filmmaking stuff. In case in point. It started out fine, and I'm not giving homage to found footage. And that part I could tell where it hooked me in, especially with me that I forgive a lot of found footage movies. I see it's well shot. It has the intrigue. It kind of goes with on for the first 10. What was it? 5 or 10 minutes? 5 minutes. 5 minutes. It feels long. But once it drops that stick, and this is where everything falls down when it turns into this movie, this regular movie, that it wouldn't be so bad. I saw that things that happen like that. For example, Rex 3, the Spanish movie. It also starts out with a found footage, and then they drop the stick to make a regular movie, and I like that. I like Rex 3, but this one, in that sense, what begins to lost is in its own pacing. I'm not criticizing the acting, because the acting is but for the most part just fine. But what kills it is that it goes into this old pacing that it goes so slow, mostly because the film, it feels so more in itself on its filmmaking and how it points the camera that they just build atmosphere and you hear the sounds and all this stuff. You keep building and building and building, and it does that a lot of times that it kind of puts the plot to a halt and it gets boring. You just stay there. Sometimes it gets so much in the more by saying, "Hey, let's point the camera into this wall because you might see something of it there," and it just kind of like there, and I was like, "Come on." And it doesn't help that you sometimes notice some elements that are kind of like odd. Many people are talking about the beginning of the movie in which I did say that the dude blow his head, and then we got our protagonist that she gets soaked with blood on her face, and we get kind of like the introduction title in which even the cops are there to remove the body and all the stuff. She's being consoled and all that, and then the whole day passes in which comes kind of like nighttime, and then we see our protagonist that she still has blood on her face, and many people, including myself, I was like, wasn't there a time in which she could have cleaned up her face? I mean, yeah, I get it. She got traumatized, but not that long to the point that somebody should say, "Hey, lady, I know this is traumatic. Clean yourself up." And of course, because the movie kind of built itself into its atmosphere and the elements, it doesn't settle itself on the kind of story that it wants to be. We don't basically have kind of like big connection with the characters because we only know that there might be something between them. They have some paranormal powers because sometimes they keep seeing this crack window with just one crack window that kind of comes out of nowhere. Sometimes they see visions of apparently this puppet with kind of like this glint eyes that kind of looks like how can I say that monster named Black from the Lost Twisted Metal the Lost Twisted Metal endings that thing. There some character just come and go. She also makes some stupid decision. Like for example, there's kind of like a point in which she's armed, and then comes to a point in which she gives herself to a halt, and in the good moment in which she still needed the knife, she drops it and never picks up that knife again. And so. And of course, the mythology doesn't feel like it's settled in. They just wanted to set kind of like this story in which something paranormal happened, and it involves incubus. And that lore doesn't feel cemented to the point that it just happens. It just happens. It doesn't cement itself, its lore. And if there's kind of like a prequel that I have missed, let me know because something feels kind of something missing, and it's just kind of like a series of events that things happen here, things happen there. Some people say that it reminds them of other movies. And then it comes up with probably one of the most anticlimactic endings I have seen this year. The whole ending personally, I found it very anticlimactic. Oh, did I mention that we also have the CGI dogs out of nowhere? And the guy that blew himself, he also has some kind of like interesting lore, but for some reason the way he kind of looks like if Bob Hoskins went to the dark side. That's the best way I can describe it. So honestly, people will say that that you should applaud Chris Duckman because being a critic, he finally made a movie, and in that regard, I agree that at least he could deserve a little bit of a pat on the back for at least trying. Because let's face it, he could have done worse, but he's not immune that this movie was at least mediocre at best. best. So in a way, don't blame me if this movie will end up telling Sod about his snapped neck